Cool 96 wishes to inform the public that the opinions and views expressed during this program are not necessarily the opinions and views shared by the management, staff, or shareholders of Cool 96.
From the economy to education, politics to parenting, if it is a concern to you, then it's up for discussion. Join me, Pakeisha Edgecombe, every Monday at 2 p.m. on Cool 96 for the new one-hour talk show, Up for Discussion, a talk show geared at addressing issues and finding solutions. That's Up for Discussion every Monday at 2 p.m. on Cool 96.
Good afternoon and welcome to Up for Discussion. I'm your host, Pakeisha Edgecombe. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We took a break last week to celebrate the holiday, but now we're back and with a very, very special guest today. We will have in studio Erin Ferguson of Citizens Review, a Nassau-based program. Also joining us today is co-host Yolanda Hanna. It promises to be quite a discussion this afternoon here at Up for Discussion. Now, our guest today, Erin Ferguson, many of you are familiar with, he serves as the host of Citizens Review on JCN Channel 14. Now, Citizens Review is into its 7th season and going strong. Erin's approach to news and information has been one that is very candid, outspoken, and in many instances controversial. He has, however, developed a large following of supporters and fans, many of whom are open to his approach, and others, well, not so much. Nonetheless, today we are up close and personal with Erin Ferguson, his views, his concerns, his take on Grand Bahama and the Bahamas. Good afternoon, Mr. Ferguson.
Good afternoon. How you doing? And thank you for welcoming me to the show. I'm happy to be home in Grand Bahama.
Yes, indeed. Grand Bahama is your home.
Absolutely. Between Freeport and 8 Mile Rock. Sea grape to be specific.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Well, as I noted earlier, your show Citizens Review is into its 7th season, is it?
We're going on the 7th season, yes. And it's been difficult because you could imagine that there are a lot of people that don't want to hear the truth, but I call it the controversial consensus. It's amazing to me that everybody agrees, but it's controversial. And I've never seen an opinion that carries the crowd's understanding, the crowd's liking, but it's a controversial opinion. So it doesn't make sense to me, but it speaks to the fact that for a very long time, Bahamians haven't had a voice.
Right.
And that's what Citizens Review seeks to do, to be independent, accurate, bold, and particularly objective to our political system.
Right.
And just present the information as it is.
What inspired you to begin such a program?
Well, I studied comparative politics and international relations, and then I also studied classical civilization, which is from whence these systems have come. Greek, Roman, and Egyptian civilization, literature, their drama, all of that stuff. And, I always knew that it was my job to sort of have some sort of influence on our political process, to come back home, which I decided to do when I left Washington, D.C. But I was not sure what that was going to be until I stumbled into radio, and then Erin Kiki Knowles of the F&M kicked me out of an F&M convention. And when he kicked me out, I promised him that he would regret that attempt to silence democracy for the rest of his life. And then came Citizens Review.
Yes.
So in all honesty, it was slightly a vendetta, but it has become my life's work in a way. And I'm very young, so life's work is contextual.
Right.
But that's how I got started. And I have a passion for the idea of a Bahamian and everything that stands for. And, we had a little meeting in the coffee shop before we came in. A man said something that was so interesting to me. He said, there is a Bahamian and there is a grand Bahamian. And so I feel pleasure that I am one of those Bahamians that are grand Bahamians.
Indeed,
and
indeed.
that speaks volumes to me. It was so interesting how he coined that. But that's where it came from. It was a man who decided to tell me that I could not have a voice. And then I started to look at the issue of people having their own voice, and there was a lot left to be said.
Well, you are indeed doing an exceptional job in that area of bringing the citizens' voice to programming and indeed to media. Again, our co-host for the day is Yolanda Hanna. She'll be joining us and letting us know, also questioning Erin today. Our sponsors are Kelly's Freeport Limited, Pine Yard Steel Fabricating and Construction Company, as well as Crosstown Convenience Store and Sias Restaurant. We want to thank all of our sponsors for today's program. Now, Erin, the first time I watched Citizens Review, I cringed, literally. I was not familiar with that type of news and information feed due to the fact that for many years you would have seen that there are a lot of journalists that go out there, but to tell what is actually happening, we've seemingly kind of hidden it under rugs. How do you feel when persons come up to you, those who are trying to silence you? What does that even encourage you even more?
Well, it does encourage me more, but I come from, as I said before, the tutelage of Cornel West. And Cornel West, who was a Princeton professor, he was a Cornell professor, now a Princeton professor, and he may be at Stanford now, if I'm not mistaken, made it clear to us at Howard University that if you were not prepared to die for something, go get a job on Wall Street. Go make some money, because otherwise doesn't make any sense. And that's how I feel. I got to do what I got to do, and you got to do what you got to do. And if what you got to do includes doing something to harm me, then that's what you got to do. But at the end of the day, I say this, and I say it understanding that it pains my mother to hear this, but when they kill me, I've done my part. And so then the rest of y'all got to go do what you're supposed to do to bring the country to the place where it needs to be. And I am not afraid of that. I understand that that may be a consequence. I understand that I deal in the business of exposing some very unscrupulous characters, but it is what it is. One of my professors, Dr. Babalola Cole, he's a West African, and he said one time that the strength of the African liberation movement is that they came into appreciation of the concept that whether they spoke or did not speak, the predicament of blacks in Africa was clear. And that's our issue. Whether we say something or don't say anything, which is very critical in Grand Bahama in particular, I call it the silence of the lambs. We Grand Bahamians are scared to say anything. Everybody works for the port or the container port or the port authority. And that's a scary prospect. But we have to say something because our predicament will not change. Whether we say something or don't say something, the predicament is very clear.
Why is it so important, do you believe then, for us to speak up and speak out about the issues that are actually impacting not only Grand Bahama, but our country? Why so important?
Well, we learned this from the nation builders that are on the front line. When you went to school and you learned from your teachers, they told you knowing is half the battle. If you don't know what's going on, what you're doing, what's happening, then you halfway away from where you're trying to go. You have to know, and in order to know, you have to communicate and talk about these issues, and then proceed to establish what your interests are, and then proceed towards achieving your goals. I tell people we have a unique problem in the Bahamas. There are countries, organizations, cities, counties that fail at their national plans, their development plans. They're trying to achieve it, but they're missing some of the mark. The UN has Millennium Development Goals and all this stuff, and they may not be achieving some, but they're trying to get it done. In the Bahamas, we have this unique situation where we have absolutely no plan. We ain't failing at nothing because we don't have nothing. We don't have interests. We don't have foreign policy. I don't know what Fred Mitchell and Perry Christie them just do when they go to the United States other than find out what they need us to do, because we don't have any declared interests. The interest of the Bahamas is, y'all got any people who want to come on vacation? Well, that's not interest. And that's critical to our problem because we don't know. Knowing is half the battle. We haven't talked about these things in any critical way. We haven't been honest with ourselves about what our establishment is, and it is simple, and I can outline it for you. I want to take people in Grand Bahama and anyone else listening to this through a clear understanding of what our predicament is. So let's have the discussion. Where is our economy? Well, our economy is a labor economy. It's a 19th century built economy. So you have slavery that brought West Africans through the transatlantic slave trade into the quote-unquote New World. That was 15th, 16th, 17th century. In the 18th century, they abolished slavery. And in the 19th century, they abolished slavery, and we moved into what we call the labor economy. So all of a sudden, you were no longer a slave. You had to work. And you had to work as an indentured slave. And then the labor economy got more improved. So you were getting a job, and you were working for a company, a robber baron, a steel magnate, a railroad magnate like Henry Flagler, who hired a lot of Bahamians in Florida, or a coal magnate. You were working for the Rockefellers or the Vanderbilts. And that's when the economy shifted a bit from labor into industry, the 20th century. We're now in the 21st century. Silicon Valley has CEOs that are 21 years old that run companies that value more than our whole country.
Indeed.
Bill Gates is richer than 100 and something countries around the world. He is exponentially more wealthy than the Bahamas is as a country. So the world has changed, and nobody is paying attention. So we have labor economy leaders, and there are people who doubt that we are in a labor economy. So I say, okay, well, let's put it to the test. And that's how we have to begin to think. Knowing is half the battle. So let's test this hypothesis. Is it a labor economy? Okay, well, who are the wealthiest Bahamians? The wealthiest Bahamians are lawyers, doctors, politicians, accountants, and bankers. Well, what are they? They are service providers. Well, here's what we know about service providers. Service providers do not have the wealth. They work for somebody. So they part of the labor economy. They highfalutin laborers. They just wear nice, pretty suits and nice, pretty ties and beautiful blouses, and their hair just flow, and they just get Mercedes from Tire Flex and these places around here. But they are workers. And so when the wealthiest people in your community are service providers, the poorest people are cheap laborers, you run in a labor economy. That's it right there. The money comes from someplace else. Anybody who watched the movie Django Unchained saw Samuel Jackson's character as the house Negro. Well, what does the house Negro do, a.k.a. the upper class Bahamians? What do? They don't pay attention to who have the money. The house Negro does not pay attention to whether the master is managing the affairs properly. The house Negro makes sure that other Negroes working hard. They make sure that there's productivity on the field. They make sure that Atlantis has the employees that they need. They make sure that Bahama can get the 5,000 Negroes that they need to employ. And so our politicians are managing a very active, thriving, wonderful labor economy. It works very well. I think people need to commend Perry Christie and Hubert Ingram and Lyndon Pinland in particular, who decided, contrary to what they sold us as an idea, because Pinland came in to running the PLP saying that we would take down this barefoot economy, as Randall Fox labeled it. Randall Fox said, listen, we can't have tourism destroying the people. Fidel Castro kicked tourism out as a concept in Cuba. Stafford Sands say, oh, that's perfect. Come, bring that to the Bahamas. Year-round tourism. And Stafford Sands is really the architect of how we exist. So here's what he did. He fortified our labor economy. He said, listen, what will happen is foreigners will come in, foreign direct investment. They will bring the money to me, Stafford Sands, I corrupt politician. They will work it through my law firm. No mistake that most of our politicians are lawyers because they follow the model. They will bring the money through my law firm. They'll get all the approvals they need, and then they will go ahead. And I'll pay Etienne Dupuche one $10,000 and this one on $10,000, and all the politicians who are Bay Street boys like Mr. Bancroft and Mr. Lightbourne and Mr. Kelly and Mr. Pritchard, we'll make sure they get a piece of the deal. And once they get a piece of the deal is locked. And so the service providers or the merchants of Bay Street, we remain service providers, got the money. They were the wealthy class, and the foreigners came in. They owned the production. They owned the labor. They owned the profits. And the black people stayed workers. And so Pinling, when they gathered the black masses, and Pinling is a great man, there's no denying that, but this system he kept. When they gathered the black masses, promised that they would destructuralize that system. But the day Pinling won, he promised the investors that he would keep a stable economy. He would stabilize this country. There would be no dangers to their investments. Don't worry about it. Have faith in us was the quote. And so the system kept going. And so no one, go ahead.
Yeah, and it still exists today.
And yeah, you can't blame Hubert Ingram and Perry Christie for following that model. That's all they know. They're in future shock. Facebook is making billions of dollars. They don't even know what that is. They don't understand how it works. They can't tell you what Twitter is as a development from Facebook on statuses, what Instagram is as a development from Facebook on pictures, what Path is as a development on Facebook that fuses statuses and pictures. They can't tell you what Tumblr is. They don't know that the weird children just use Tumblr because they like art and they like graphics and they like artistic things displayed in weird kind of ways. They don't understand why Groupon that sells coupons makes billions of dollars. They don't understand why Living Social makes billions of dollars. We don't have a public transportation system, but there is a app called Uber Taxi that exists in New York and DC and big cities. And you literally get on the app. All the taxis are on GPS. You signal the taxi you want. There's a taxi within 5 minutes of you. When you message that taxi, the taxi comes. They call your first name because you registered, and they charge you.
We're far behind, are you saying? Very far behind.
We are not even participating in the 21st century. We are information dummies. And we have politicians that are 20th century born, 70-year-old men that cannot even begin to process how the 21st century works.
Hold that thought. Let's just take a quick break, and we'll be back and find the solutions right after this.
Crosstown Convenience Store has savings blooming in every eye. Crosstown Convenience Store has savings blooming in every eye. We got everything you need, from houseware to groceries, knickknacks and motor oil, giving you variety.
It's the ultimate convenience store. Crosstown Convenience Store, located in the Crosstown Mall on Settlers Way and East Atlantic Drive.
We have savings blooming in every eye. Crosstown Convenience Store has savings blooming in every eye. Crosstown Convenience Store has savings blooming in every eye.
Kelly's Freeport Limited has been serving Grand Bahama for more than 40 years. Everything you need for your home is at Kelly's. Housewares, home decor, bed and bath, hardware, building material, paint, lawn and garden, and much more. And for those special occasions in life, take advantage of the bridal, baby, and housewarming gift registries. Kelly's provides the best service, best selection, best value for the overall best shopping experience. So remember to shop at Kelly's True Value. Start right, start here.
Have you heard about Happy Mondays at Sire's Restaurant and Bar? Well, on Mondays, Sire's rolls back their prices. Food and drinks are discounted all day long. They're not just offering you a free meal. On Happy Mondays at Sire's, bite into juicy homemade hamburgers and club sandwiches, or the best crack conch in town. Steamed or fried fish, baked rotisserie, or fried chicken. And have you tried those delicious pasta dishes? Shrimp or conch and lobster Alfredo, or just Alfredo? Check out Happy Mondays at Sire's Restaurant and Bar, 351-2876.
Strutting It Boutique, located in the International Bazaar African section, has sexy backless dresses, cutout dresses, short shorts, tops, palazzo pants, heelless wedgies, pumps, flat sandals, sling bags, clutch purses, handbags, fashion earrings, and necklace sets. Selected shoes and clothes still 50% off. Also, don't forget to check out the $20 rack. that strut-knit boutique located in the International Bazaar African section.
At Bahamian Illustrated, they serve, promote, and design. Online marketing available, including social media marketing, online banners and e-blasts, text blasts available for retail stores and restaurants. They also design websites, logos, t-shirts, flyers, and more. Ask about their mobile websites, now servicing all islands of the Bahamas. Online payments also available. For more information, call 352-1120. Bahamian Illustrated. They promote, serve, and design. Jubilee Bath and Body, located in the International Bazaar Arcade, specializes in authentic Bahamian-made products. Bath and Body products, jewelry, perfumes, handbags, and so much more. Unique handmade products at amazing prices. Visit Jubilee Bath and Body today. Open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
Cool 96 wishes to inform the public that the opinions and views expressed during this program are not necessarily the opinions and views shared by the management, staff, or shareholders of Cool 96.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Up for Discussion. Our special guest for today, Erin Ferguson of the Nassau-based television program Citizens Review. Erin, before the break, you had quite a mouthful to say with regards to the Bahamas, its leaders. Mm-hmm. We are not a part of, you mentioned, the equation, so to speak, as to technology and what is going on in the world. Yeah. How can that hurt us, and what do we need to make a difference?
Well, I told a friend of mine, I said, listen, the Bahamas government needs to acknowledge one thing. One thing is that there are 1.3 billion people that are managed by Facebook. Facebook knows where they are. Facebook knows who they are. Facebook knows who your friends are, the pictures. They know. They could probably run some algorithms to determine what kind of man you like. They could run some algorithms to determine who your mother is if you don't even know who she is. Facebook knows all of that. Now, that's dangerous, but it's relevant. And what the friend said was, well, man, that's Big Brother. You got to watch out for that. Government can't know all that about me. I said, but here's the thing. The Bahamas is 350,000 people. Facebook is 1.3 billion. Facebook is managed by 5,000 people. Our government is managed by 30,000 people who drive 5,000 government cars, which is ridiculous. And our government don't know where I am right now. They don't know what I'm doing. I don't have an address because we don't have addresses. You can't mail nothing to me. They don't know where I am. They can't GPS track me. They can't do anything. They can't even tell me where I work at NIB unless I submit a form. They can't even tell me what my hospital records are unless I in the right clinic. Makes absolutely no sense. And the government that knows everything about their citizen is just as dangerous as the government that is completely ignorant to who their citizens are. That's our conundrum. And that is that way because, and it's not a matter of intent. My daddy used to say, never judge a man by his intent. Look at his actions and proceed to evaluate his performance. Perry Christie and Hubert Ingram are 19th century thinkers. They managed one of the best 19th century economies in the world. The Bahamas is third best GDP on this side of the world. It works. But the problem is the average Bahamian no longer wants a 19th century economy. They want a 21st century economy where we take advantage of our assets. We come to understand how this thing can work for our benefit. We start to look at the fact that we have oil, we have salt, we have silica, we have the tongue of the ocean, which generates approximately $12 to $13 billion for the U.S. government, with $2.5 billion nuclear submarines testing every day. Mind you, our government budget is $2.8 billion. Their one submarine is $2.5 billion. So we don't have a problem. We have the purest limestone in the world that Bahama Rock proceeds kindly to blow up every day in Freeport and run the drag line to set everybody's clocks back and destabilize the foundation of the homes right at the beginning of 8 Mile Rock. We have all of these resources. We have flats fishing. We have 10 times the flats that Florida has. Florida has 10 times the revenue in the industry. And then 30%, correct that. 1/3 of the sea life in the world is born in the Bahamas. So if we put a fence around the Bahamas, the world would starve. It's only 350,000 of us. There is no problem there. Our problem is growth. And we talk about things like crime and immigration. I like to address that in this way, because we have this tendency not to trust ourselves as Bahamians. We have self-image problems. We have self-loathing problems. We don't like the fact that we're black. We embrace the fact that we're black and slaves. We don't embrace the fact that blackness can be great. And so we don't trust ourselves. So we say, okay, well, what's our problem? No, there is no problem with us. The fact of the matter is Bahamians are not real criminals. We see these murders and all of that, and we convince ourselves, oh, the street's dangerous. The fact of the matter is when there's a hurricane, there's no crime. Those are not criminals. Those are opportunists. When there's holidays, the crime shifts direction to gifts and thieving and stuff like that. It moves away from violent crime and over to crimes of opportunity. These are not criminals. These are simply people that we have, one, criminalized with a system that does not function and has a 99,000 case backlog in a country of 350,000 people. 1/3 of us could be involved in a case that ain't explored. What you have there is people who are opportunists. So real crime in the Bahamas is white-collar crime. We have real estate agent politicians that perpetrate crime every single day.
Explain that. When you say that a politician is a real estate agent.
A real estate agent. Okay, so what do they do then? Stafford Sands set up the model. We continue it. It's a beautiful model. Perry Christie is the mastermind of said model. There was a ministry, let's use Perry Christie as the example. There was a Ministry of Financial Services and Investments. He set it up, Foreign Direct Investment, Domestic Investment Board. He approved I think it was one project in the Domestic Investment Board, Frankie Wilson's project, just so happens to be a big donor to the PLP and his friend. Then there was 22 billion, I think, in projects approved on the foreign side. 22 billion. So somehow Bahamians are stupid. They can't come up with ideas. They couldn't get funding. And somehow foreigners are brilliant. They're amazing. They're white and illuminant. And they have the greatest ideas in the world. And so they had got 22 billion in approvals. But then they start flat landing our country. Gin project, flattened West End. Maguana, flattened Maguana. Ain't built the airport, which we now know after 2 people died. And none of the projects came off. And the biggest project to come off is Albany and Bahama, which we know that Hubert Ingram and Perry Christie end up having to negotiate. So he maybe exploited about 3-4 billion of 22 billion. Well, that's a problem. And I know from foreign investors, they will tell you, we understand that we have to pay commissions to politicians. That's what we have to do. We pay commissions. When we get our approval, we give them a percentage. So here's why I call them real estate agents. They understand that we have all this crown land, 10,000 acres to the I group. That's so sickening, it ain't even real. And Alison Maynard Gibson's daughter was VP at I group at some point. And she was the Minister of Financial Services and Investments when I group got their approval. So it's obviously clear. And so what they do is they get these commissions. Now, who gets the commissions? I don't know. But the commissions are paid by the foreign investors. Call one and ask one. They pay commissions when they get their approval. And here's the beautiful thing about it all, which is why Perry Christie is so good at it. He did it better than any of them. He put it in a ministry and focused that ministry on selling off our land and approving projects that may or may not ever get anywhere. Here's the beauty of it. When the Prime Minister gives you your approval, his job is done. The commission lands, and whether you build that project or not, don't make no difference.
Well, who is to blame then? Because when it's flatlined, as you may have mentioned, Yolanda, you can come in on this. When it's flatlined, who is to blame? Are you blaming the foreign investor? They have every intent to do what they need to do. And if they're not doing it, then who should be held accountable?
There should have been due diligence. If the ministry, a whole ministry was set up with supposed professionals that did due diligence on projects, more than 80% of the projects shouldn't fail. And you can't tell me it's the global financial crisis. More than 80% of the projects should not fail.
That's a high number.
That ain't a high number. That's a failure rate that is unacceptable.
That's ridiculous.
That's a failure rate that leads us to question What was the intent of said ministry? Was it ever intended for these projects to be successful? And was there true due diligence done to make these projects actually viable? And I would argue that there could not have been, because there would not have been an 80% fail rate. And I dare say it's more than 80%, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yolanda?
Erin, I want to bring the argument specifically to Grand Bahama.
Yeah.
I mean, you are from Grand Bahama.
Yeah.
You know, son of the soil.
Yes.
And I just want to ask you, in your opinion, what is the problem? What is the problem in Grand Bahama?
Well, we signed up for a deal that we never completed. So the port deal called for there to be a mayor of Grand Bahama, for it to actually be set up as a city center. The Ians, Ian Fair and Ian Roll, they are the protectors now of a shell company that gets a lot of money in for licensing and profits from percentages of deals that are cut in Grand Bahama. So they have no incentive to do anything. What they will tell me is that, oh, they try their best to get this thing going. Well, the problem with that is that the biggest projects that have come to Grand Bahama, up to and including the GIN project, was backed and financed and supported by the government of the Bahamas, which means that I really don't need Ian Fair or Ian Roll to do anything, because they are obviously incapable of bringing real development to Grand Bahama, unless they have a portfolio of development that they've brought that I don't know about. I suspect that there is such portfolio, but that portfolio only benefits the Port Authority. Examples, case in point, they built Gombe Land and Pioneers Loop so fast to make up for the deal that they needed to be re-signed in 1992 that they didn't even name the schools quick enough. And we all know about it. We all know they threw those schools up in no time because the election was coming up and they needed the 92 signature of their leases and licensee permission to be extended. Then we look at what they've done in terms of power generation. That is their responsibility. But they sold it off, and now we get Emera, which is running the worst power system in this country. The prices are astronomical. What they are doing to people's appliances and in terms of cost to the average person in Grand Bahama is absolutely ridiculous. And the Port Authority has no interest in protecting us because they are in the deal. They've scalped out the Port Authority. So the Port Authority is a shell company. It holds the license, and everything else has been sold off. The airport is Hutchison Whampoa. The power company is Emera. Everything is somebody else.
Belongs to someone else.
Belongs to someone else. That was not the plan. The plan was that they were responsible for essential services. All of the services that they have made businesses and sold off. And those services were supposed to then become the ownership of the people of Grand Bahama.
And they have not.
And they've not become that. What they have become is the means by which to keep people in Grand Bahama unemployed, to keep them unempowered, and to keep them broke. And what is happening is Ian Fair and Ian Roll are perpetrating themselves as the leaders of the new century. They will take the Port Authority into the new century. And Grand Bahamians continue to listen to them and their nonsense when, as I said, the last biggest project to be brought to Grand Bahama was brought on the backs of the Bahamian taxpayer in the form of the GIN project. Why are they not able to materialize a project? They cannot make this 500,000 acres profitable.
So as a Grand Bahamian, listening to you today, what will you say to all of the radio listeners out there who are hurting, who are wanting to know where the answers need to come from? Because the questions have been asked over and over and over again. What are we to do in Grand Bahama? How are we to get out of this predicament? They've called on government. Grand Bahamians have been crying out to the government. It's obvious that, you know, the Port Authority will do only what they need to do or what they can do for themselves, right? So as a business owner, as a resident in Grand Bahama, what is it that we need to do to move this country forward?
Well, there are some practical things. So a case in point is the Lewis Yard situation. Grand Bahamians have to decide that they want a piece of the pie and they want to stick together. The situation with Lewis Yard, where they basically poisoned that area of the island. And you can't live there. Some people have gotten sick. You got to shut down the school, all of this nonsense. That land should be put into a trust because it is very valuable land. They intend to use the land. We know that. It's very, very valuable land to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. That land should be put into the trust for the ownership, credit to those persons who are from and grew up and were affected by loss of land due to that kind of contamination in Lewis Yard, and they should be the beneficiaries of that land and its profits. What I'm saying by saying that is Grand Bahamians have to determine that we want to see a different kind of Grand Bahama and we want to see a different kind of Bahamas. The opportunity is here in Grand Bahama, unlike any other island in the Bahamas, where we have 5 seats in the parliament. And 5 seats is a majority in our parliament. Why I say that is because we know the next election is going to be close, because we watched a sweep election in 2002, a tight election in 2007, a sweep election in 2012, a tight election will come in 2017. We have to be that margin. Grand Bahama can be that margin. It just has to determine that it wants to be. We can't look to Ian Roll and Ian Fair. They are not competent at doing what it is that they quote unquote are supposed to be doing. What they're doing is protecting the interests of the Port Authority.
Why do you believe that? Why do you believe
Well, the
that?
evidence suggests it. They've not brought any projects to Grand Bahama. The new project that come in the West End, that's the government. The next project that come into former Isle of Capri, the government is backing that. These things are being brought by Perry Christie's regime, not the Port Authority. And if Ian Fair and Ian Roll telling me that they simply can't find nobody interested in an island paradise that is the most wired in terms of its fiber density in the world. The Bahamas is the most fiber dense country in the world. If they are telling me that they are interested in attracting real investment to Grand Bahama, all they have to tell me as the licensee is why they haven't stabilized the power problem. Because they know that if Freeport wants to be a manufacturing center as the free port, the no-tax port, you got to have the power sorted out, because ain't nobody coming here unless the power sorted out. Well, you sell the power company to the people who don't know what in God's name they're doing, and you persist to let them do what they feel like doing. You let them raise the prices, you let them provide an efficient service, and you are the licensee. You have the power to shut their inefficiency down, because it affects your city, your free port, in a way that is uncompromisable in business. But they allow it. Why do they allow it? Because they benefit. Why do they benefit? Because they're a shell company collecting fees. That's all they're doing. All of the development. And listen, when your development in your city, your advanced city, comes from Perry Christie, you running a bunch of nonsense. Because the country can't move forward with Perry Christie. And Freeport's supposed to.
You are of that view.
Yeah, and Ian Fair and Ian Roll, the only evidence showed is that Perry Christie bringing the development. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, wow. We're going to take a break right after that. Erin Ferguson is our guest for today on Up for Discussion. You can join in the conversation at 352-7440. You can call in with your comments, questions, concerns right after the break.
At Bahamian Illustrated, they serve, promote, and design. Online marketing available, including social media marketing, online banners and e-blasts, text blasts available for retail stores and restaurants. They also design websites, logos, t-shirts, flyers, and more. Ask about their mobile websites, now servicing all islands of the Bahamas. Online payments also available. For more information, call 352-1120. Bahamian Illustrated. They promote, serve, and design.
Strutting It Boutique, located in the International Bazaar African section, has sexy backless dresses, cutout dresses, short shorts, tops, palazzo pants, heelless wedgies, pumps, flat sandals, sling bags, clutch purses, handbags, fashion earrings, and necklace sets. Selected shoes and clothes still 50% off. Also, don't forget to check out the $20 rack. That's Strutting It Boutique, located in the International Bazaar African section.
Jubilee Bath and Body, located in the International Bazaar Arcade, specializes in authentic Bahamian-made products. Bath and Body products, jewelry, perfumes, handbags, and so much more. Unique handmade products at amazing prices. Visit Jubilee Bath and Body today. Open Monday through Saturday, 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
Have you heard about Happy Mondays at Sire's Restaurant and Bar? Well, on Mondays, Sire's rolls back their prices. Food and drinks are discounted all day long. They're not just offering you a free meal. On Happy Mondays at Sire's, bite into juicy homemade hamburgers and club sandwiches, or the best crack conch in town. Steamed or fried fish, baked rotisserie, or fried chicken. And have you tried those delicious pasta dishes? Shrimp or conch and lobster Alfredo, or just Alfredo? Check out Happy Mondays at Sire's Restaurant and Bar, 351-2876.
Kelly's Freeport Limited has been serving Grand Bahama for more than 40 years. Everything you need for your home is at Kelly's. Housewares, home decor, bed and bath, hardware, building materials, paint, lawn and garden, and much more. And for those special occasions in life, take advantage of the bridal, baby, and housewarming gift registries. Kelly's provides the best service, best selection, best value for the overall best shopping experience. So remember to shop at Kelly's True Value. Start right, start here.
Crosstown Convenience Store has savings blooming in every eye. Crosstown Convenience Store has savings blooming in every eye. We got everything you need, from houseware to groceries, knickknacks and motor oil, giving you variety.
It's the ultimate convenience store. Crosstown Convenience Store, located in the Crosstown Mall on Settlers Way and East Atlantic Drive. We have savings blooming in every eye.
Crosstown Convenience Store has savings blooming in every eye. Crosstown Convenience Store has savings blooming in every eye.
Cool 96 wishes to inform the public that the opinions and views expressed during this program are not necessarily the opinions and views shared by the management, staff, or shareholders of Cool 96.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Up for Discussion. Our special guest today, Erin Ferguson of Nassau-based program Citizens Review. Our sponsors, Kelly's Freeport Limited, Pine Yard Steel Fabricating and Construction Company, Crosstown Convenience Store, and Size Restaurant. Thank you so much for sticking around. Again, you can call into our program at 352-7440 with your questions, concerns, and comments. Today, Erin Ferguson, up close and personal. Erin, you have never been afraid. Have you always been this outspoken? Or did it creep up on you?
No, it didn't creep up on me. If you know from whence I come, I'm a Ferguson, a Francis, a Knowles, and a Smith. Knowles and Smith from Long Island, Ferguson from Auckland and Edgecombe, and also Francis from Bimini and the Berry Islands. And if you know my aunt, you know my mother and my grandparents, you know it ain't no... I ain't buy this, as we say. So I've always been this way, and I don't like to think that I just make noise.
Hey.
I like to think that I think about what it is that I say. I'm trained in social science, and I analyze and I say what I see, and I ain't lying on these people. The fact of the matter is, Ian Fair and Ian Roll cannot show me a major development they brought to Freeport outside of the assistance of the Bahamas government and Perry Christie. And as far as I'm concerned, Perry Christie is no measure of achievement. And if that is going to be the route going forward, they need to be fired.
Are you the most feared man in the Bahamas right now?
I don't know who's the most feared man in the Bahamas right now. I don't carry a gun. Keith Bell got guns. I don't have no gun. Maybe Bernard Nordich is the man to fear because they carry weapons.
Yeah,
I don't have any of those.
We have a call on the line. But go ahead. We have a call on the line.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Go ahead, sir.
How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
I want to welcome Mr. Ferguson back to Freeport.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your comment. I do agree with you, but let me ask you a question. We have a concern on Grand Bahama. We really have no firefighting equipment, no fire department. I suffered some great loss last week. What is your advice to me going forward with seeking some compensation? And I do agree with you. You know, I don't want to sound like a preacher to you, but you know the Prophet Elijah made statement like you and I made on national TV. And he had to then hide himself into the wilderness but God provides a rearing to feed him.
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say? God provides something that would be called a crow to feed him. God will provide for us because we're standing up for his people. It may be hard, but I think at times we need to stand up and let our voice be heard. And I want to thank you for doing that. But I'm asking you, what do you suggest as me as a small businessman that has suffered a loss of over $100,000 by the hands of, I felt that the fire department elected me as a citizen. What is your suggestion? That how do you think I should go ahead with dealing with this matter?
Again, as far as I know, the Port Authority is responsible for essential services. They built the Rand Memorial Hospital, which was a half-baked effort at a hospital, and they are responsible for these kind of basic services. But here's what I'll say. There's some technology of smaller fire trucks. I think they're on F-250s or F-350s, and I spoke to a critical thinker who's a Grand Bahamian about this. And these fire trucks have the ability to pump. They cost, upwards of $50,000, and not as expensive as these $250,000 fire trucks. And they have the ability to pump water. They're inexpensive, and they could solve the problems of fire. It doesn't cost us so much money to solve these problems, but again, we don't have 21st century thinkers who are embracing 21st century technology and innovation. And the other thing is, if you dig 3 feet in Grand Bahama, you hit water. The other thing is that we buy fire equipment that cannot handle corrosive materials like salt water. We in the Bahamas of islands, there's salt water within reach of most places. You could use saltwater equipment to out fires, and it would not cause a problem unless it's a specific type of chemical fire where you have to be careful of what type of substance you use. There are solutions to these problems, my brother. And the sad thing is that you, like everyone else in Grand Bahama, are subject to the shell company that is the Port Authority that has dubbed out all of the essential services like the airport, where I just have to now come, instead of to my nice airport, which I grew up coming into, I just have to come into a damn warehouse over on the corner to the side where all the Negroes them just pile up. And then every once in a while we get a little island hopping tourist to come on the plane with us.
The service entrance.
The service entrance, we just go through the back door. That is the kind of mentality that's being propagated in Grand Bahama. And they making you think that there are no solutions because they can't afford the $250,000 fire truck. You don't have to spend that much money.
So what do you say on this case where the Port Authority are then giving government on a yearly basis over some $100+ million? Shouldn't government, the law stipulates that the public welfare and the safety of the public lies solely at the feet of the government. The government is responsible by the Constitution. It also goes on and states in the Constitution that I cannot sue an individual, but I can sue an entity for a fire if it is dialed out as accidentally.
Yeah.
My case is that my fire was not accidentally because I have called 14 hours in advance, and that's my case. Going forward, I'm looking for some sort of solution to my problem, and for the other Grand Bahamians who might suffer the same loss.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I do agree with you that our leaders and vision don't have no vision. We have a hotel in the bazaar, which is the number 1 location for our hospital. We have the bazaar road closing up the travelers from getting to the bazaar to see what's going on. This is an excellent idea for us to put a hotel there, an international hotel. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And
again, the Ians are incapable of attracting the development, and they cannot answer for us why.
Well, I think that it's trying. I also feel that they are trying in some which way, but I feel that the government has to be more proactive in dealing with some things. I, for one, myself, has been trying to open in a trade school for 3 years. I've been waiting for one letter for 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the government itself is slow itself. So whether we want to find the blame at the Port Authority solely, I still think that the government is responsible for it.
Yeah. And that goes back. Thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it. That goes back to this what I keep hearing about, this little cute, funny foolishness that is called, I think they call it the Ministry of Grand Bahama. That is the funniest thing I ever hear in my life. Let me tell you something. Michael Davil better get serious, because he knows, and they all know, that the power is centralized at the cabinet. And that means that Michael Davil can't do nothing for people in Grand Bahama that the cabinet has not resolved that he could do. The fact of the matter is, when you start ministries, you got to put your money where your mouth is. Michael Davil is no more empowered than the Ministry of Culture to help promote culture in the Bahamas, no more empowered than the Ministry of Youth with their little couple of youth officers to empower youth in the Bahamas, and he is not empowered to empower people in Grand Bahama. We would have been better off with Shivago Lang, who used to just tell us things good. We would have been better off with Nico Grant continuing to lie to us and tell us, hey, getting a little better, man, something coming along. Because to start a whole blessed ministry and not do anything is more of an insult. And again, I submit that the Ians are incapable of doing their jobs, and they don't get paid by the Port Authority to do a good effort. It's about results, and those businessmen are not achieving results. They should have projects on the table, and it's so hard, and it's so difficult, and somehow the Port Authority makes it. Somehow the Port Authority manages to bring in strategic investors to advance its shares and to make more money off of its wings of power. Somehow they were able to structure these wonderful little deals for the airport and these wonderful deals for the power company, and they ignored essential services like the fire station, and they're very profitable, enough to fight over it for 10, 15 years. Somehow they figure out how to extract profit out of their company, but they can't figure out how to extract development out of 500,000 acres that is flanked by the second most critical port this side of the world. That is an incompetent businessman. That's what that is. That ain't nobody who he trying his best. Ain't nobody's pay you 6 figures to try your best. They just pay you 6 figures to solve the problem. If you have a free port, a free, no-tax port in the Western world, 100 miles from the United States of America, and you can't figure out how to get people in here, you got to go. That's very plain and simple.
So, Erin, knowing this, as just a resident of Grand Bahama, a citizen, you're not a politician, not an expert, knowing everything that you've detailed, having that knowledge, why is it we sit so quietly by and not support persons like yourself, band together to push forward change? Because it's obvious that the change is in the hands of the residents. Right? And we have that
the citizens
power.
Of Grand Bahama.
So we're suffering from fear then.
Yeah. Well, see, with even the notion of the Ministry of Grand Bahama, what government of the Bahamas could come to Grand Bahama and show us how to do business? They need to come here and study how we do business efficiently. Because the government of the Bahamas, when I grew up in Grand Bahama, we had cable. Me and my brother used to go to Nassau, and when the cable shut off at 12 o'clock and the colors come on the screen, we literally stared at the screen for 20 minutes waiting on the TV to come back on. And it didn't come back on because Nassau was behind. Always was behind Grand Bahama, because Grand Bahama was the new city. And we set precedents as to how things could work. We did business more effectively and efficiently. We put systems in place to make sure that this place operated well. And Bahamians ran those systems. Now, of course, the Ians will take credit that the Port Authority put those things in and did all of that. But the same port then need to go figure out how to get investment in this place. And if you can't figure that out, then we would argue that Bahamians ran those systems. We operated an efficient city, and we don't need a Ministry of Grand Bahama for them to come tell us how to improve ourselves. We need to be empowered and moved away from this licensee concept, which is allowing the Port Authority to run a shell company and profit huge on the backs of people in Grand Bahama.
Do you agree then that perhaps Grand Bahama is so much, too much Freeport centric? You have outlying areas as well. Why isn't there anything being done in these areas, areas which the government
is responsible for? But I think the problem with Grand Bahamians is that we have a self-pity issue. The fact of the matter is, when I ride around Grand Bahama at night, power off in plenty homes. I've done it before. Every time I come, I just do the ride around. And we don't have street lights everywhere. So you just have light on by your house to keep your house lit. And when them lights off and ain't no TV glimmering inside, I know your power off. And the fact of the matter is that is widespread. It's plenty people can't afford to keep their power on. What that I think it inspires is a sense of self-pity for Grand Bahamians. And what that has caused us to do is to wallow in the depression of the fact that we are not getting anywhere. We keep trying, we ain't nothing happening, and we ain't moving. Well, the fact is that Grand Bahama has the political maneuvering power to change the whole Bahamas. And we're very cliquish. We decide who we going, but everybody's go with that. And it's not something that we say, but it's something that we do. And the fact of the matter is, we are suppressing our children in the next generation. We're keeping them quiet. The parents from the Port Authority and the container port telling you, shh, don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. Just try to get your way. Well, that is not working. That is not getting us anywhere. And we have to use the strategic power of being the only island outside of Nassau with more than 2 seats. The only island with more than 2 seats. We have the ability to shift the paradigm in the parliament and demand rights for people in Grand Bahama and come to the parliament with the understanding that we have one of the best city center setups in this side of the world. And we could bring that to the benefit of the Bahamas. The fact of the matter is, Bahama Rock, as far as I've seen, makes almost $1 billion a year in profit. The Port Authority benefits from that. And they know they're making this money, which is why they don't need the city to be up and running for them to make a lot of money, because they have certain investments around here, and those investments benefit them. That's why the whole city got to be subject to poor power supply so that they could run that drag line, so that they can make that $1 billion. Well, the fact of the matter is, that's the people's $1 billion, and we need to go for it and stop being so quiet. Grand Bahamians have to determine that we are Grand Bahamians.
Erin?
And this is our place.
This is the quickest hour ever. Thank you so much for joining us. But before we go, quickly, if you can wrap up for me, 40 years of independence just around the corner. Are we better off now?
We're better off because we've moved forward in some ways, but I say it like this. Lyndon Pinling is the father of the nation, and a father he is. Parents can be the most constructive and destructive figures in your life. I've seen parents make children, and I've seen parents break children. And Lyndon Pinling is the best and the worst thing that has ever happened to the Bahamas. He overstayed his time. He continued a system that he agreed that he wouldn't stay, but he brought us into independence. He brought us into prominence, and he stabilized this economy. He's the best and the worst thing that ever happened to us. I think the world has been waiting for us to step up, move to the plate, and walk into the 21st century as the most fiber-dense country in the world that should be the most progressive country in the world. There are only 350,000 of us. There are almost 5 industries in this country worth $1 billion. Salt, aragonite, silica, the tongue of the ocean. We have the flats. We have oil. We have all of these things. And 350,000 people cannot starve, cannot be stupid, cannot be held back if we have all of those resources. Just like with the Port Authority, with the billions of dollars made in Freeport, and the people should own it. It's just like Lewis Yard with the millions of dollars that will be made on that land, and the people should own it, just like those industries in the Bahamas with the billions of dollars to be made, and the people should own it. Right. The tongue of the ocean is valued at $12 to $13 billion. Our national debt is $4 billion. Our budget is $2.8. That's only $7 billion, and they make more than that every year.
All right. Well, like I mentioned earlier, this is the quickest hour ever that we've ever had here at for discussion. We want to thank you so much for coming in from Nassau. We are definitely going to have you back.
Thank you.
But our hour is up. We want to thank Erin Ferguson of Citizens Review, our co-host for this afternoon, Yolanda Hanna. Also, thank you to our sponsors, Kelly's Freeport Limited, Pine Yard Steel Fabricating and Construction Company, Crosstown Convenience Store, and Sire's Restaurant. And speaking of Sire's, Erin will be there this evening, shortly after 6. So if you want to come by and meet him,
let's talk.
Let's talk some more with regards to Erin's views, concerns, and approach to the Bahamas. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you to all our listeners. Good afternoon, everybody.
Cool 96 wishes to inform the public that the opinions and views expressed during this program are not necessarily the opinions and views shared by the management, staff, or shareholders of Cool 96.
Cool 96.